A very good morning to you. It is 7 a.m. on Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. Welcome to New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, and we will take your calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. We're going to have clouds this morning, then becoming partly cloudy later with a little breeze, highs in the mid-60s. Get ready for cool down tonight. And when cool down, I mean cool down. It's going to be interesting because we're going to have getting down to the 30s. How do you like that? Did you release this? I don't know that Pam, our director, is all excited about it, but I don't know that I'm so excited about that. And then it gets a little nicer through the week. Mike has a day off. We take a check of the Garden State forecast right down to your town. And then in terms of traffic, here's what we have today. A vehicle fire on I-195 westbound, just west of exit 3, which is Hamilton Square, Yardville Road in Hamilton Township, with a right lane of 2 lanes and the right shoulder closed. We have a disabled tractor trailer on the Jersey Turnpike Outer Roadway northbound south of Interchange 14, which is I-78, 1 and 9 in Newark. With the right lane closed there, and we have downed wires on 179 in both directions now. North of County Road 603, Mount Airy Village Road in West Amwell Township, all lanes closed. We also have a crash on 280 westbound in Parsippany Troy Hills. All lanes are open right now. Power failure on Route 35 southbound by Broadway and Point Pleasant Beach. All lanes are open. That problem's been going on since yesterday, you'll recall, and that's all due to the flooding from the nor'easter we had over the weekend. And we have delays now reported on the Pulaski Skyway from South Kearney to US 109 Truck Route 109. That is a problem that's been since the overnight. They're not telling us what it is, but at least you get an idea of what's going on. We take a look at the Hudson River crossings right now, and the GWB, let's go right to the GWB, upper and lower levels are very heavy for this early hour. Right now, Lincoln and Holland, that guy should not be going down the shoulder. Lincoln and Holland giving us 20 minutes, and the GWB is about 35 to 40. making your way into Manhattan. It is 7:05. As first announced live on this broadcast yesterday morning, New Jersey Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli announced that he was going to sue Democrat Mikey Sherrill over comments that she made at the last governor's debate, accusing Ciattarelli of murder.
That you then went out to kill tens of thousands of people in New Jersey, including children, as they got. You just broke the law. In fact, your campaign right now is under federal investigation for how you illegally got access to my records. So to say that right now, I think you're trying to divert from the fact that you killed tens of thousands of people by printing your misinformation, your propaganda, and then getting paid to develop an app so that people could more easily get the opioids once they were addicted. Families across the state deserve to know more about that.
Yesterday, Ciattarelli said that he was going to sue Sherrill yesterday.
I just think she cracked. And if you notice, she had a press conference yesterday and she refused to say it just as she did at the debate, because I think she realizes what the hell she's done. But listen, we're not letting her get away with that line. We're filing our defamation suit today.
And by today, he meant yesterday. Not sure if that actually went down. We're going to find out if we can today about that. We will, of course, let you know when we get the information. It is 7:06. New Jersey Globe editor David Wildstein has filed a complaint with the New Jersey ELEC, or Election Law Enforcement Commission, after the second New Jersey governor debate ran short. He argues the statutory requirement for a full hour was violated in order to sell commercials. This was the debate that was on ABC 7 and 6 ABC, not ours. Wildstein wants replacement debates to uphold taxpayer and voter rights. He also questions whether ELEC is delaying decisions until after legal deadlines have passed. 7:07, Hamas returned 4 more hostage remains yesterday, while Israel returned 45 Palestinians to Gaza. Note the difference here. Palestine, or the Palestinian authorities, if you will, the Hamas folks, they let Israeli prisoners die in their custody. And they were supposed to simply return the remains, and they couldn't even do that right. They were supposed to return all the remains on Monday. It is now Wednesday. They still have not done that. That is the Gazans for whom the young, stupid protesters in Manhattan scream and protest and wrap themselves in the so-called flag of Palestine. Meanwhile, Israel had people who committed murders and rapes in their jails who are from Gaza. These are actual convicted criminals who went through the process of a court case. They were given attorneys, etc. So these were genuine convicts caught in the act of criminality. And they released 45 perfectly healthy, living people from Gaza back in Gaza. So every time you hear from the river to the sea, keep Palestine free and all that crap, understand that these are animals. Not the people of Palestine are not. We're talking about the Hamas authorities are animals. They're animals, the way they have treated their captives, whom they went into Israel and kidnapped. These are people who were in their beds or young people attending a concert, and they were killed, they were raped, their babies had their heads cut off, they were burned alive. That's what Hamas did to Israelis when they came into Israeli territory, whereas Israelis did not do that to Hamas or to Palestinian dwellers. They didn't go into Palestine, get people, and do that to them. Just remember that. President Trump warned Hamas, you better disarm or face consequences under the ongoing peace deal. See, the Arab states around the Palestinian territories have cut a deal to go in and rebuild all of what is Gaza. So all that rubble is going to be knocked away, and that's going to be rebuilt. That's part of the deal that was struck, including struck with Hamas. What has Hamas done? No, they have not disarmed, just like they keep doing. Israel's been saying this for decades. They say, yeah, out of one side of their mouth, they do whatever they want out of the other side. So what did they do? They lined up a bunch of Hamas members who they believe acquiesced to Israel and the U.S., and they shot them in the head. And they did it in the public square, so everybody could see it. So why would anyone want to come forward and make a deal now if the people who did that got shot in the head? They were all murdered by the rebel-type Hamas people. So until they lay down their arms, we can't move forward with the rest of the peace deal. So now it looks like what may end up happening in the next week, if peace is not achieved, Israel has the okay, this time not just by the U.S., but by all the Arab countries. Flatten their asses. Go in and squash them like a bug. We don't care if you cut them into 1,000 pieces and scatter them to sharks. Kill them. So if Hamas is going to be that stupid and they want to do that, then we will be overjoyed. And I never say we'd be overjoyed in the death of anyone, including the most enemic of enemies. But they are now causing other people to suffer in a massive way. They're doing it before, and now it's to their own people, above and beyond what they were doing. They're starving their own people before. Now they're shooting them in the head. So this has got to end. Don't be surprised if there is not a resolution by the weekend. President Trump's just going to tell Bibi Netanyahu, go in and wipe him out. Just go get him. And that's what's going to happen. You watch. 7-11 right now. By the way, only 8 of the 28 deceased hostages have been returned, angering Israeli officials and families. It is in direct violation of what President Trump has long been talking about. The hostages or their remains all be returned immediately, not just one here and one there or one bone here. You kept prisoners and you negotiated with the West, saying you had the bodies of those prisoners, and now you lied? Well, if you lied all along. That means time for us to come in and just drop a bomb on you. You're done. Israeli Defense Minister Katz says the delays violate the agreement and will be met with force. And again, he now has permission from every Arab state in that region. Squash them, get rid of them. So that's what Hamas wants. I don't want to see from the river to the sea protesters complaining about it, because every Arab state agrees with Israel and the U.S. now. This has got to end. And the only people supporting Hamas are Iranians. And I don't mean the people of Iran. I'm talking about the Iranian government giving money to Hamas. They've propped them up along. And they're the rabble-rousers in the area, the Iranian regime. So, and they're next. If they don't start getting on board, they're next. 7-12, President Trump is the first president in history to make it to the cover of Time magazine twice in 1 year. But look at the photo that they chose. It looks like a fat, bald guy from underneath. You can't even tell it's President Trump. It looks unrecognizable. Obviously, the leftists at Time, see, this was he would have been historically the only president on the cover of Time twice in a year, and he achieved peace in the Middle East like no other president in our history ever could achieve. So they have to do a positive story, but they don't want to do it with glee. So what they do is they put the crappiest picture of Trump they could find on the cover. Why would you choose that pic? There are so many great pictures of Trump. Why would you choose that picture unless you're trying to depict him as an old doddering man, which is clearly what they did. Now, just so you know, the photographer who took that picture, ironically, is the same guy who shot the famous fight photo of Trump that we all love. But it wasn't his choice which photo made the cover, okay? It was an editor, a leftist radical editor with an agenda, clearly not GOP friendly. Just remember that next time you think about buying a Time magazine. When was the last time you bought a Time magazine anyway? 1831? Just curious. The Pentagon now requires reporters to follow strict approval rules to stay credentialed. Larger outlets like CNN and the New York Times, the leftist ones, are refusing to sign the policy. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says, I don't give a damn, sign it or not. We don't need you in here. Hegseth defended the move, calling media access not a right, but a privilege.
Maybe the policy should look like the White House or a military installation where you have to wear a badge that identifies that you're press, where you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon, the most classified area in the world. Or also that if they sign on to the credentialing, they're not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common sense stuff, Mr. President. We're trying to make sure national security is respected, and we're proud of the policy.
Now, just so you know, what was happening was you had members of the media becoming buddy-buddy with some of the career generals who were in the Pentagon. So what would happen is, no matter who the president was, okay, you just still went to your sources, your career generals and lieutenants and colonels, etc. So all these leftist outlets like the Times, the Washington Post, no matter what Pete Hegseth or the president would try to do in terms of keeping a lock on certain things, there are certain things you have to do secretly. No, the generals who were leftists who hated the president who was on the right would go and leak all that information to the press. Well, that's easy to do when you're out in the open. See, they won't do it on a phone call. They won't do it with electronics because that could be subpoenaed someday. And if they subpoena that or they tap the phone, then you go to jail. But if you take somebody in the hallway and say, hey, Joe, I got some information, which is what happens, okay, you get away with it. Well, now Hegseth is saying, no, 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 no. If you want to come and walk hallways of the most secretive building on the planet, you're going to need special credentials, and it's only for certain areas at certain times. And by the way, why do you need access to the whole place? If you only need to speak to the spokesperson, why do you need backroom access to all this stuff? It's not about freedom of the press intimidation, because the press is still going to get its information. They could still ask Hegseth and the appointed people, which, by the way, when I worked at Channel 7, there was only one person who from the NYPD were allowed to talk to, one, the commissioner. That's it. We didn't complain. It wasn't a freedom of the press thing. As long as you had someone to talk to, you just need to get the official word. But these asses at the Times and the Washington Post and CNN, they don't want the official word. They want the behind-the-scenes stuff that's not supposed to get out. And it's not supposed to get out for a reason, because of the security of our country. So now, suck it up, Buttercup. That's the rule. Okay? You don't like it? We'll elect a different president. Right now, this is what you got. Shut your mouth. 7/16, President Trump posthumously awarded Charlie Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom on his birthday. Kirk's wife, Erica, accepted the award for her husband. The ceremony honored Kirk's legacy as a young conservative leader and Trump ally. Trump praised Kirk as a true American hero during the Rose Garden event. Kirk was fatally shot, allegedly by left-wing radical Tyler Robinson in September during a college speaking tour in Utah. Well, get this, several major U.S. airports, including Newark, Liberty, and JFK and LaGuardia, are refusing to play a video of the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, in which she points out that Democrats are to blame for the federal government shutdown. It includes air traffic controllers, by the way.
Hi, I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. It is TSA's top priority to make sure that you have the most pleasant and efficient airport experience as possible while we keep you safe. However, Democrats in Congress refuse to fund the federal government, and because of this, many of our operations are impacted, and most of our TSA employees are working without pay. We will continue to do all that we can to avoid delays that will impact your travel, and our hope is that Democrats will soon recognize the importance of opening the government.
Now, officials who refused to have that video publicly played have cited the 1939 Hatch Act, which prohibits political activities of federal employees to ensure government programs are administered in a nonpartisan fashion. Technically, though, is this that violation? You're not allowed to say, when you are in a public setting, if you are acting in official capacity like Kristi Noem, you're not allowed to say, Joe is running for Congress, I'm hoping you vote for him. That's what the Hatch Act says. Hatch Act doesn't say you can't state a fact. And that's why 95% of the airports in the country are playing that video. It's only the super liberal airports in the super liberal cities. And mark my words, Kristi Noem will do something to retaliate, or the Secretary of Transportation will. See, the problem is these airports are run by local administrations. They're not owned by the federal government, so they get away with crap like this for now. But there are ways the federal government can go after them, and they will. They will. The little wise asses on the left here in New York and New Jersey, they think they always think they get the last laugh going to a district court judge or something, and then they'll learn the hard way. Don't mess with your bosses, and they're going to find out the hard way. So is this truly political? It is a fact that 5 Senate Democrats refused to approve an extension of the existing budget that they passed a year ago. Nothing about that is untrue, and it could be argued this is simply a fact. All the U.S. Senate members on the right want to do is pass a continuing resolution, which means keep everything exactly as it is. The Democrat-passed budget, keep it as it is for another 3 weeks so we could sit down, get back, and negotiate. Democrats don't want that. They wanted the government shut down. So it was 5 Senate Democrats who forced the shutdown. But you go to CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, and you won't hear that. They're trying to allude to the suggestion that this is a Trump government shutdown. It couldn't be further from the truth to say that, because every Republican, with the exception of Rand Paul, voted for the extension of the existing spending plan. And only one Democrat, Fetterman, voted for the extension. Otherwise, every Democrat voted in lockstep to shut down the government. So you cannot blame it on the Republicans. I'm sorry, Chuck Schumer. You want to blame it on your Democrats? Chuck Schumer was all about going to extend the continuing resolution until he found out about his little girl there AOC, who is going to primary him and get him out of office soon. And that's when he got scared and he said we would have a shutdown. That's what happened. Survivors of abuse, New Jersey reporting a rise in teacher misconduct inquiries in New Jersey. Expanded state law allowed more survivors to come forward with claims. The group credits advocacy and legislative reforms for the increase. They say institutions must now face accountability and increase transparency. 720 new COVID vaccine rules limit eligibility to older adults and at-risk individuals. Many adults still receive shots by listing their qualifying conditions at pharmacies. They say they need it, they get one. Parents of toddlers, however, face major hurdles finding pediatric doses at clinics or hospitals. Because guess what? No babies or infants or young children have ever died of COVID because their immune systems are better. Okay? They can deal with it. It is better not to get the vaccine because it has side effects. Everyone on the left was saying there are no side effects. Now we find out there are tons of side effects. You do not introduce a vaccine into somebody's blood unless you need it. Okay, any good doctor will tell you that if you don't need the shot, we're not going to give it to you. But yet there is moolah to be made, and the Democrats pushing for this. Get money from big pharma by the hundreds of millions of dollars to run their campaign. Right now, the Democrat Party is broke, folks. BR-oak. They're down to about $14 million in the national budget. $14 million. Republicans have about $300 million to get people elected at the midterms. That's why the Democrats are all for saying, you Republicans, with your RFK, you want people to die. No, you want the big pharma folks to put money in your damn coffers. That's what you want. Doctors are saying more guidance and supply is needed to support child COVID vaccinations this fall. Translation, babies don't need the shot. They just don't need the shot unless they have a pre-existing condition where they have compromised immunity. So think about that. Don't give your kid anything you don't need to. That doesn't mean you don't give them vaccines. There are a bunch of vaccines kids should have, but there are a few things they don't need. And just consult with your doctor, and your doctor knows what he or she, your child, needs. And yes, it's he or she, not they, or doesn't. A shooting in Pensacola caused a vehicle to crash into a home's yard. Officials found an 18-year-old gunshot victim inside the car. He was treated at Cooper Hospital and later released. Police are asking anyone with info to call their major crimes unit. It is now 53 degrees, 722 clouds this morning, becoming partly cloudy later with a little breeze, highs in the mid-60s. Then a big cool down tonight, lows throughout the state in the 30s. And we'll take your calls at 888-658-0234. You're watching New Jersey Mornings. Don't go away.
Jack Chitterelli, born and raised right here in New Jersey, where it's never been harder for the middle class. As governor, I have a plan to fix our state. In Congress, the only thing Mikey Sherrill fixed is her bank account.
It says she made millions on the stock market, tripling her net worth while in Congress, and was then fined for unreported trades. Is that true or false?
So, I think we made money.
Come on, who would know if they made $7 million? New Jersey needs a governor who gets it. Mikey Sherrill doesn't. I do.
And welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings for your Wednesday. I'm Ken Rosato at 724, taking calls at 888-658-0234. Straight to a check of forecast. And the forecast translates as clouds this morning, becoming partly cloudy later today. A little sun, a little breeze, highs in the mid 60s, then a cool down tonight. Through the state, we're going to get down into the 30s. Take a look at traffic right now. We have a mess on the Garden State Parkway. Look at this. A crash on the Garden State Parkway northbound north of 137, which is Route 28 in Cranford Township. All lanes are open, but you see the brake lights there. That is because the vehicles were moved off to the right shoulder. That's causing folks to just check the brakes as they go by. We have an overturned vehicle going toward Philadelphia. It's on I-76 eastbound at exit 1B. Which is I-295 rather in Belmar. So coming out of Philly to New Jersey, this is happening. 2 left lanes of 4 lanes, and the ramp lane and right shoulder are closed. So it's very difficult to get through that area making your way into New Jersey. We also have a disabled vehicle on 1 and 9 northbound south of Pleasant Street in Linden. The center lane of the 3 lanes now closed. The Hudson River crossings, Lincoln and Holland now reporting 25 of the Holland. Lincoln is 30 minutes, and the GWB upper and lower level pretty heavy already. This is a different camera shot, but you can see on the right side, the lower level, on the left is the upper. And we're talking on the lower now 40 to 45 minutes, which is pretty hefty. The upper level is now 40 minutes making your way into Manhattan. 726. As first announced live on this broadcast yesterday morning, New Jersey Republican gubernatorial candidate Jack Ciattarelli announced that he was going to sue Democrat Mikey Sherrill over comments she made at the last governor's debate accusing Ciattarelli of murder.
I'm glad that you then went on to kill tens of thousands of people in New Jersey, including children, as they got. You just broke the law. In fact, your campaign right now is under federal investigation for how you illegally got access to my records. So to say that right now, and I think you're trying to divert from the fact that you killed tens of thousands of people by printing your misinformation, your propaganda, and then getting paid to develop an app so that people could more easily get opioids once they were addicted. Families across the state deserve to know more about that.
Yesterday, Ciattarelli said on the show that he was going to sue Sherrill yesterday.
I just think she cracked. And if you'll notice, she had a press conference yesterday, and she refused to say it just as she did at the debate, because I think she realizes what the hell she's done. But listen, we're not letting her get away with that line. We're filing our defamation suit today.
No word yet on whether that suit actually got filed. Yesterday, we will let you know. 728, a dispute over checkout speed at a Marshall's department store in Kearney has led to a stabbing. Police say the attacker had just purchased knives, of all things, and chased the victim into the parking lot, ostensibly with the knife in hand. The victim survived and was hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say they found the suspect inside the store hiding, holding a bloody knife. 728, and congressional Democrats, according to CNN, well, there could be some panic among them as they have realized how many House seats the GOP may pick up from redistricting alone. Again, this was on CNN yesterday. Redistricting could give Republicans 19 pickups. Listen up.
But if you look this is what the party pickups would be for congressional districts. Republicans, 5. Missouri, 1. North Carolina, 1. Ohio, 2 or 3. Indiana, 1 or 2. Florida, still discussion down there, but that could be another gold mine for them if they tipped even further their way. Kansas, 1. New Hampshire, 1. And Nebraska. Democrats, Utah, California, Maryland. Look at this. If you offset California and Texas, Missouri and Utah, North Carolina and Maryland, everything left over is an advantage to the Republicans. And don't forget, the Supreme Court is considering what could really be the end of the Voting Rights Act, which would protect minority groups. So you don't have a state that's half black, for example, that elects only 1 congressional member and everybody else goes to the Republicans that would represent that population in some ways. So if that is gutted, Democrats could lose 19 seats.
And add to that what appears to be cheating in the 2020 census that gave many blue states more representatives than they should have had. Somebody accidentally at the census office listed way higher populations among Democrat-controlled states and way lower populations. How does that always happen in the favor of the Democrats with these entrenched leftist bureaucrats who work in government offices by the hundreds of thousands? They've been there. It seems that government offices attract leftists like this. But apparently that made when they redistricted and they gave certain congressional seats to different states, many Congress members should have gone to red states like Florida, Mississippi, Alabama. But no, they stayed in blue states like at the time Ohio and New York and New Jersey. And that is what kept the Congress members Democrat. That's why, even though America seems to have shifted so far to the right, we only have the House by a few seats. It should be anywhere from 20 to 35 seats that the Republicans control the House by right now. And that will change. As CNN was reported, you wait, because now that's going to be corrected, the mistakes that were made with the census. And you'll also have, remember, the deportation of illegal aliens. Once you deport millions of illegals from big blue cities, what will happen is the count, when they do the new count, will cause the population to go down. When the population goes down, you have lower allocations of congressional members. So blue cities will have less representation, and you will have more representation going into the red cities. That's what's going to happen. So when all is said and done, some political analysts are saying Republicans could end up with 35 or more House seats in the next 4 to 8 years. 7:31, President Trump posted on Truth Social that he ordered the destruction of yet another drug-running boat. He wrote, quote, "Under my standing authorities as Commander-in-Chief this morning, the Secretary of War ordered a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel affiliated with a designated terrorist organization, a DTO, conducting narco-trafficking in the U.S. Southcom area of responsibility just off the coast of Venezuela. Intelligence confirmed the vessel was trafficking narcotics. They don't just kill people at random, folks. It was associated with illicit narco-terrorist networks and was transiting along a known DTO route. So this was international waters. Nobody in a little fast boat travels in international waters headed straight for the U.S. Think about it. The strike was conducted in international waters, as I mentioned. 6 male narco-terrorists confirmed in advance by our information we have, our insiders who let us know. They were aboard that vessel. They were killed in the strike. No U.S. forces were harmed. And New York Attorney General Letitia James is facing federal charges following investigation into mortgage fraud allegations, but now she is under scrutiny regarding whom she was allowing to stay in her Virginia home at the center of her indictment. You know, that Virginia home, she said allegedly on paper when she applied for her mortgage that it was her primary residence in order to get a lower mortgage rate and in order to pay less tax, property tax locally. That place that she then later said that she had a renter in there. Well, that right there, that is the renter she allegedly had in there. That is her grandniece. That is Nakia Thompson at the Norfolk, Virginia home. She lived there allegedly 5 years, despite Thompson being wanted by authorities in North Carolina. Yeah, she's a fugitive, according to police in North Carolina. If you look at her rap sheet, it's pretty big. A lot of serious felony charges. Thompson, who lived at the Virginia property with her 3 children, according to reports, has been officially labeled absconder. I mean, she escaped by the North Carolina Department of Corrections. James was now battling federal charges, and all the left is trying to run to her defense, saying, oh, this is a governmental thing. This is Trump attacking poor Letitia James. This is retribution. It isn't retribution. There's tons of evidence that she's breaking the law on multiple counts with her multiple properties. If convicted on just those 2 federal charges, not the others, there are like 8 they can get her on. If convicted on the 2, she can face up to 60 years in prison. The only thing holding everybody back is the U.S. District Court in liberal Eastern Virginia, who may very well say, we'll look the other way. We'll see what happens. It is 53 degrees now, 7:34. You're watching On New Jersey Mornings, and we're coming right back.
Bergen Equestrian in Leonia is the top destination for horse riding, lessons, and exceptional horse boarding facilities on over 23 acres in Overpeck Park. Bergen Equestrian has programs for people of all ages and skill sets, indoor and outdoor riding areas, and a riding lounge. Riders can compete in horse shows and special events. Bergen Equestrian offers horse boarding and rentals, seasonal kids camps, and more. Consider Bergen Equestrian for unforgettable memories with kids' birthday parties, private events, weddings, and school trips. Visit BergenEquestrian.com.
A moment of zen. And good morning. Welcome back on this Wednesday, October 15th to ONNJ Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. Clouds this morning, then becoming partly cloudy later. A little breeze, highs in the mid-60s. A little cool down tonight, though. Lows in the state down into the 30s. Mike has a day off. Check out your local forecast. And in terms of traffic, we have a disabled vehicle on the Garden State Parkway right now, southbound, south of 137, 28 in Cranford Township with the right lane closed. And we have issues, of course, in your Hudson River crossings. Lincoln and Holland, we now 20 to 25 at Holland, 30 at the Lincoln and the GWB upper and lower levels, both looking very heavy right now with the lower level, your better approach. Look at this. This is a different camera angle we usually have by Fort Lee. But nonetheless, you could see heavy traffic about 40 minutes in either the upper or lower approaches into Manhattan. 7:37 is our time, and on Columbus Day 2025, just this past Monday, Italian-American communities across the country welcomed President Trump's proclamation reaffirming the second Monday in October as Columbus Day, a move to reclaim the explorer's legacy of faith, courage, and perseverance. But this shift comes amid a broader cultural debate. Many states and cities have replaced Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day. Well, officials behind the move claim it is to honor Native American contributions, when in reality, it's nothing of the sort. It is simply to disrespect Columbus because they don't like him. Liberals view him as a white colonialist oppressor, while they view Native Americans as just the opposite, the oppressed, even though many Native Americans killed one another and they oppressed each other. And this is not to condemn anyone, not condemning Native Americans. This was their land. But at the same time, we shouldn't be condemning Columbus. Well, such is the game that many on the left have played throughout history. Meanwhile, there are already several other days honoring Indigenous peoples and Native Americans. And by the way, Indigenous peoples and Native Americans deserve highest praise, deserve their own days. But of course, you have many politicians who've decided to pit one against the other. And neither group, the Italians nor the Indigenous peoples, wanted to be part of that. So Columbus Day is the only day that currently honors contributions of Italian Americans, and Italian Americans are one of the largest ethnic groups in our nation. The Italian American One Voice Coalition has formed a new alliance with the Native American Guardians Association, or NAGA, to build bridges rather than deepen divides. And here to walk us through what that means and why it matters so much is Andre Domino, who is president of the Italian American One Voice Coalition. Good to have you on, as always, Andre. Welcome.
Great to see you again, Ken. Thank you.
You bet. And this year is kind of special, Columbus Day, if you will. Unfortunately, we didn't get the parade in New York because of horrible weather. But why is Columbus Day still such a flashpoint?
Well, unfortunately, you really said it well. They're trying to use that to divide people instead of trying to unify. And just as you said, Columbus Day was made crystal clear this year by President Trump that it is a federal holiday. It's always been a federal holiday, and it still is. And he emphasized that it is, instead of what they're trying to do in many places where they've changed Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, pitting one group against the other. It really shouldn't be done. And that's why we've gone out of our way to try to avoid that with the new alliance with NAGA, the Native American Guardians Association.
I'm so glad you did that. And I don't know about you, I'm sure you do too. I love American history and Native American history. I love our Native Americans. I love the culture. I love and I have never met a Native American who said, "Oh, you're a colonialist Italian." They don't, it's like, get over it. It's politicians. And by the way, they're probably on the right too, I'm sure. They're politicians who are making this an issue. Again, I'm speechless because as an Italian American, I love our Native American culture here. It's a beautiful thing. And thankfully, you got together with NAGA and you're doing this, saying, hey, we could both enjoy, let's celebrate each other. Let's stop fighting each other. We could celebrate both. And by the way, we know that there are issues with Christopher Columbus. We get it. But nobody was perfect, including Native Americans and Christopher Columbus and MLK. And you could go back and find faults with every one of these heroes. But we could choose to dwell on the negatives, or we could dwell on the positives. And the fact it was the largest migration on the planet's history. By that, I mean Europe coming to what is now the U.S. because of Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because our organization, Italian American One Voice Coalition, we're fighting the cancel culture that's going after Columbus and also the negative stereotyping of Italian Americans. And that's why NAGA was a great alliance that we formed, because their sole purpose is to educate and not eradicate. That's their saying, because they're trying to preserve the names that they want, like the Redskins and the Chiefs and so forth. So they're fighting cancel culture, and we're fighting cancel culture. So this alliance works out great. And in fact, we have monthly meetings with them on Zoom, which we call the Solidarity Sessions, bridging cultures against cancel culture. So working together, we support them in trying to bring back those important names and imageries of Native Americans, and they support us in preserving Columbus Day and celebrating indigenous peoples and Native Americans on their own dams.
Yeah. Politicians in this country had canceled many Native Americans over the decades as well, taking them off their land, putting them onto plantations not plantations, excuse me. That's what we did unfortunately, to African Americans. We have our sins, and there's no question we have our sins, but everybody has sins in their past. And what we do about the sins is what matters. How we correct the wrongs is what makes us different from other countries. Yes, they put Native Americans onto chunks of land that weren't their land and took away their land because we wanted to build cities. It was awful. It was awful. And there was the Life of Tears and the Trail of Tears, etc. Awful what we did to Native Americans. But you don't fix things by erasing the past. And if there are issues with Christopher Columbus, we should talk about it. We should explain why certain things were done and why certain things were good, and have a dialogue. Guess what? I would rather sit down over a meal with anyone, Native American or anyone, and say, let's talk about it. Yeah, so there are certain things that today he would never have done. Somebody would have lynched him for it. And Italians were lynched in the 1890s, right? It was the biggest lynching in American history. You talk about that history. And that was down in, I guess, Louisiana, right?
That's correct. March 14th of 1891, 11 innocent Italian Americans were lynched, as well as a mob that beat up a lot of other Italian Americans because they blamed them for a death that occurred of a police officer. And because of that, there was such a problem. And by the way, there were other lynchings beside that, but that was the single largest. And because of that, there was almost a war that broke out with Italy. And that's why on October 12th of 1892, President Harrison declared the first Columbus Day celebration. And that was as an atonement or an apology to calm things down. So you see, Columbus Day has a very important role in welcoming Italian immigrants and all of our ancestors and generations before us against that discrimination and denigration and that lynching that occurred back then, that violence. And that's why Columbus Day is so important. And, we have to look also at the fact that the facts about Columbus that are being spewed are not really facts. They've been disputed totally and debunked by a number of people. They were perpetrated by Howard Zinn, a self-declared anarchist and Marxist that wrote a textbook where he went after our country by going after Columbus as well as our founding fathers. And his book now has been disputed, but unfortunately, it's still being used in a number of schools. And that's why we have people that still buy into these falsehoods about Columbus and about our founding fathers.
I love it. All right, Andre, what is a website for people to get more information about this and the coalition between NAGA and Italian American One Voice?
Absolutely. You could go to our website, which is iaovc.org, which is the initials of our organization, Italian American One Voice Coalition, iaovc.org. And then we have our Zoom meeting once a month with NAGA, and we invite everyone to be on it. It's free, no charge. And just like you said, Ken, we learn about each other. We learn about our cultures. And that's why we try to unify and not divide. So everyone join with us in unifying our country, this great fabric of America that we have.
love what you did. I'm sure the politicians on all sides of the spectrum are angry because they thrive when there's division, because then we have to go to them. But when you get together like this, and God bless our Native Americans and the indigenous people, God bless them. But God bless Italians. It's okay to celebrate our culture. And that doesn't mean we denigrate any other culture. We could celebrate everybody's culture because that's what makes us great in America. President of the Italian American One Voice Coalition, protecting the history and reputation of Italian Americans, Andre Domino, my friend. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Ken. Good to be on with you.
Always. Thank you, sir. 7:46, and when we come back with less than 3 weeks until Election Day, wow, 3 weeks from yesterday, New Jersey's governor's race getting wilder as the polls are getting tighter. We will speak with the man, political expert, Micah Rasmussen. I say, we do it. Rasmussen, I'm sorry, Micah, to see where things stand right now. Clouds this morning, then becoming partly cloudy later with a little breeze, highs in the mid-60s. Hey, Micah, you can call me Rosato if you'd like. Get ready for cool down tonight. Lows throughout the state into the 30s. And we'll take your calls at 888-658-0234. You're watching New Jersey Mornings. Don't go away.
We vote to protect the Social Security we worked hard for. We vote because family caregivers deserve support. We vote to have a say in our future. For all the reasons why, AARP has information about when, where, and how to vote. Find the information you need to make your voice heard.
Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, 747. It is 53 degrees, and we'll take your calls at 888-658-0234. Some clouds this morning, become partly cloudy later with a little breeze, highs in the mid-60s, then a cool down tonight, lows into the 30s. Mike has the day off. Here's a check of your local forecast. Once again, our Mike Favetta, meteorologist, has a day off, and that is what he left us. A little music to enjoy with our local forecast. It is, again, 53 degrees in northern New Jersey, 55 right now in Trenton. As we take a look at some of the traffic that we have on the Garden State Parkway, we still have a crash, GSP northbound. North of exit 137, Cranford Township exit, all lanes open, vehicles move to the right shoulder. You can see it's caused quite a slowdown now on the GSP. Disabled vehicle on US 1 and 9, northbound south of Pleasant Street in Linden. The center lane is closed. We have a down pole on US 1. Route 1 northbound north of Woodbridge Avenue in Edison with the right lane of the 3 lanes closed there. And then Still back on that same route, crash on US 1 and 9, which is Tunnelly Avenue, southbound from Secaucus Road or Secaucus, depending on where you're from, in North Bergen Township to County Avenue in Jersey City. All lanes are open, but things are very heavy there. Your Hudson River crossings now, Lincoln and Holland both reporting 25-minute crossover times into Manhattan and the GWB upper and lower levels. You can see quite heavy on the lower level on the right now. We're talking 35 to 40 on the lower level, and it's 35 at the upper level into Manhattan. 7:50, and the stakes are rising in New Jersey's tightly contested governor's race. Republican candidate Jack Ciattarelli filed a defamation lawsuit, or said yesterday that he was going to do that against his opponent. We still haven't gotten confirmation. We will do that. He filed against, or was going to, against Mikey Sherrill following remarks that she made in their most recent debate. To help us analyze the legal and political implications and to understand where the race stands today, we welcome Micah Rasmussen, director of Rider University's Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics. Good morning, Micah.
Good morning, Ken. How are you?
Good to have you on. Thank you. And I'm sorry about the name going back and forth. You call me Ken Rosato, Kenny, Ken Rosato, whatever you want.
Talking ethnic history, my German, Danish family, large family, grandfathers, brothers and sisters, half of them said it one way, half of them said it the other. So I'm not in the practice of correcting anybody. So
there you go. Well, I appreciate it. I just want to make sure I get it right because I love it like a brother from another mother, and I don't want to have any disrespect going that way at all. So here's thank you. So Jack Ciattarelli, we had him on yesterday, and he said that as of yesterday, he was going to file the lawsuit. And I believe he also made that announcement on Fox, if I'm correct, after he came here. So we appreciate that he broke that news here. Haven't gotten word on whether that actually happened. We will check that out today. Either way, if it does take place, that's a big deal. So will Ciattarelli's lawsuit against Sherrill have any effect, do you think, on the race itself?
Certainly not legally. Lawsuits are going to take time to work out. There'll be discovery, there'll be back and forth. This is not something that's going to play out in a courtroom before the next 3 weeks are up. Really, what I think the question has to be for the election is what kind of an impact does it have on Jack Ciattarelli's supporters? What kind of an impact does it have on Mikey Sherrill supporters? And clearly, Mikey Sherrill, when she made the comment in the debate, was returning fire. She was hitting back. And so she made the decision in that moment, or maybe ahead of that moment, that this was how to look like she was going to be tough, was to level the charge. And it may have fired up her supporters. It may have won the day as far as the headlines were concerned. But the question is, does this lawsuit now fire up Ciattarelli supporters? Does this say, we have had enough, this is too far, and now we're going to make sure we get out at the polls on election day? So that's really the kind of thing I'm gauging for any kind of perceptible difference. Does it fire up one side more than the other?
So then, Micah, do you think that Sherrill crossed the line with debate remarks, or is it fair political theater? Hey, you put yourself out there. You want to run for office, fair game.
Probably from a legal perspective, it's the latter. It's, look, it's hard to prove defamation if you're a public official. You have put yourself out there. Hyperbole is protected. But from a right and wrong, you can't say that somebody killed tens of thousands of people if they didn't have direct active involvement. We know what she was saying. We know that she was talking about him having a medical publishing company who downplayed the risk of opioids. That's a fair charge. You can say, if you think he profited while people were getting sick and people were dying, you can say those things. To say killed, that implies a direct level of involvement that I don't think the facts bear out.
Okay, and I think you nailed it when you said people know what was meant there, right? And it is hyperbole, and every politician in history, probably going back to the Roman days, has used hyperbole in order to run. So very clearly so. Well, now the polling is all over the place. It shows a governor's race tightening, certainly. And I think the one thing that everybody agrees upon is this is going to come down to a very, very, very tight two numbers. So what trends are you watching most closely, Micah?
Well, so I watch, and this is really admittedly not the most accurate forecast, but I watch the daily vote by mail returns. And I watch those knowing that Democrats are more likely to vote by mail than Republicans. But even knowing that, again, I caution here, I mean, a lot of caveats. I want to see whether or not there are any weaknesses in the Democrats' returns. I want to see if Republicans are showing any strength in the returns. And so far, what we're seeing is Republicans are a little bit ahead of their game from 4 years ago, from the last governor's race. Democrats are also ahead of their game. And so what this works out to is, in the last election, there was a lead of about 85 or 90,000 votes among returned ballots by Democrats. We never know how people are voting at this point, but in terms of who's returned a ballot, now we're ahead of that pace. We're about at 110,000 ballots returned, and we'll see where we go today. So Democrats are a little bit ahead of their mark. Is that a dramatic difference? No. But does it show that maybe they're holding their own? That could very well be the case. And so that's a careful number that I'm paying attention to. I agree with you. The polls are not really helpful at this point, except to tell us that it's tight. We are probably talking about a couple of points in either direction. And so this is going to come down to who shows up at the polls, who turns out, who has the bigger election day. Here's another measure I'll look at, and we're not quite there yet, is the early in-person voting. If Republicans are charged up and they're ready to hit the ground running, we're going to see that in those early voting days, and we're going to have an indication that they are just swamping Democrats. If that doesn't happen, and it didn't happen in voting by mail, then they've got to make it all up on Election Day.
Gotcha. And that starts the Saturday, I believe, before. So it's the 25th.
Yep.
5th, and until November 2nd. And if you don't do it by November 2nd, you have to show up November 4th and vote in person. So fascinating. And despite Chiarelli's little bit of a surge, we also have a cash advantage on the Sherrill camp. How important is campaign funding, do you think, at this stage?
In the closing days, it's very important because it means that, so you have to remember, in New Jersey, we have a public financing system for governor. So they both agreed to a spending cap, at least on the campaign side of the money, maybe not on the outside money, the independent expenditure money is being spent in support of them. But on the inside money, they are at the same, they started at the same, they have the same level, they have the same resources. But what the disparity that you're talking about means is that Sherrill has more of an advantage going into the closing days of the election. She has squirreled away more money for the closing message, and that can be decisive. He can't answer that back as effectively or with as much money. I saw an ad impact analysis that says that he's got about $3 million worth of ads going into the closing days, and Sherrill's got about $11 million. That could be a decisive advantage.
By the way, saw you on my old hunting grounds, Channel 7, doing your political analysis. And my dear friend there, Shade Butter-and-Wah, who's just the loveliest. It was great to watch. I kept thinking, God, we got to get him back on. I'm so glad you're back on with us, too.
It was a great time with them. Yeah.
They did a great job, too. It was a fascinating debate, both debates. I love the idea that one was a town hall and one was a more standard debate because it afforded you an opportunity to see the candidates in different lights. One was the candidates talking to each other and one was the candidates talking to us, and it was really good to see them both ways. And now the debate you moderated with us on New Jersey, earlier this year, of course, whose comment do you think will have the greatest impact on this election?
Whose comment from that early debate? Let's see.
Throwing the curveball.
And it's so hard to even think back because so much has happened since then, right? I think that Jack Ciattarelli really laid the foundation that first debate that he was not going to raise the sales tax by 10%. I think that was a really important thing for him to do because Sherrill has made that a central charge of her campaign. Now, maybe it wasn't the last word because then we had a lieutenant governor debate where Jim Gannon sort of reopened the door on taxes, but Ciattarelli said definitively, I am not raising your sales tax by 10%. And I think that has changed the trajectory of at least that argument and that thread in that debate, which I think we're going to find is pretty decisive here. He has not been talking about taxes, she has, and that may make a huge difference because that's what's on voters' minds.
All right. Mike Rasmussen, director of Rider University's Rebovich Institute for New Jersey Politics. I'm sure we'll tap your brain for more between now and Election Day in 2 weeks and 6 days. Thank you so much for coming on this morning, sir. You bet. Have a great day, Micah.
You too.
Thank you. 8 o'clock right now. And when we come back, New Jersey's leading advocacy organization for individuals with disabilities now has a new executive director. We will speak with the new head of the ARC. Plus, we'll take your calls at 888-658-0234. Clouds this morning, becoming partly cloudy later. A little bit of a breeze. Highs in the mid-60s. Nice early fall day. And get ready for cool down tonight, though. Little surprise, lows in the state into the 30s. The full Garden State forecast in a moment. You're watching On New Jersey Mornings daily at ONNJ.com, Roku, Fire TV News on Samsung TV Plus, Apple TV, YouTube, Facebook, and X, and now streamed live on Substack, Rumble, and Twitch at twitch.tv/On New Jersey. We're coming right back.
Jack Chitterelli, born and raised right here in New Jersey, where it's never harder for the middle class. As governor, I have a plan to fix our state. In Congress, the only thing Mikey Sherrill fixed is our bank account.
Well, did you make some million in stock trades at all? Or?
I haven't. I don't believe I did, but I'd have to go see what that was alluding to again.
Come on, who wouldn't know if they made $7 million? New Jersey needs a governor who gets it. Mikey Sherrill doesn't. I do.
Great morning. It's 8:01, Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato taking calls at 888-658-0234. Clouds this morning, coming partly cloudy later, a little breeze, highs in the mid-60s. Get ready for cool down tonight, though. Lows throughout the state into the 30s. Mike has the day off. Here's a check of your local forecast. Three right now, and it is 54 degrees in northern New Jersey, and we have 54 in Trenton. In terms of traffic, what we have on the Garden State Parkway is a crash to report southbound at exit 143B Maplewood in Irvington Township. One left lane blocked. You can see it's causing what you have on the screen there. We have a down pole on Route 1 northbound north of Woodbridge Avenue in Edison. The right lane is closed, and a crash on 1 and 9 Tinley Avenue southbound from Secaucus Road in North Bergen to Jersey City right now. All lanes are open. Things are very slow there. We also have a disabled vehicle 1 and 9 northbound south of Pleasant Street in Linden with the center lane blocked. And your Hudson River crossings, GWB now looking very heavy, upper and lower levels. Of course, the upper level is now I'm sorry, the right is the lower level. So that's now moving. Before that was bumper to bumper. So it's the upper level giving us a problem on the left. So the lower level are now reporting only 25 minutes. That's your better route. Upper level is now 35. Lincoln and Holland both reporting 25 minutes in. 8:05 is our time. Celine R. Fortin is the newly appointed executive director of the ARC of New Jersey, the state's leading advocacy organization for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Celine has served the organization for over 30 years and now takes the helm as Tom Bafuto steps into retirement. We welcome her this morning. Good morning and congratulations, Celine.
Well, thank you, Ken. Thank you for having me on.
There you go. You bet. You have that new executive director scent. Like a new car.
It's a little bit old, a little bit new, all at the same time.
You've done the work for a long time, but it's nice that you finally get the title and all that comes with it. You deserve that for all your hard work. How do you see your leadership shaping the ARC's future now?
So, with every opportunity like this, there's a chance for change. Tom Bafuto was a magnificent executive director, a great advocate, and working with him for over 30 years taught me so much about the organization and about people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. But now this gives me a chance to sort of take a look at where we want to go in the future. The ARC is 75 years old. We have a rich history, but we have a long road ahead of us, and we have some challenging times ahead, but I'm ready to take those on.
So what are some of the plans? Any ideas you could share with us on the future of the ARC?
So one of the things that we've always prided ourselves on is that we consider ourselves the go-to place for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. You have a child in special education, you have an adult family member who's looking for residential supports or supported employment, or a family that's just looking for respite care to give them that needed break. I want to move those initiatives forward. I want to make sure that everyone in New Jersey knows who the ARC is and that they can find us whenever they need help.
What would you say some of the biggest challenges are now facing individuals who have intellectual and developmental disabilities?
I think that the fear and uncertainty that's out there in the state and in the federal government with potential funding cuts, I think that has created a lot of anxiety amongst our families, and we want to do everything we can to help them access services. Things can be very difficult. You might know that there's a service out there, but you don't know how to access it. You don't know how to navigate it. You don't know how to handle when a barrier comes in your way to moving forward with a supportive service. And we need to be the agency, we need to be the place where people go that we can help them through those challenges.
I don't know how you act as the head of an agency, never really knowing where are we going to get the 200 million? Are we going to get the 2 million? You always have to, you must have 50 potential spending plans in front of you every year saying, well, it's going to be that one. It's going to be that one. You must have like contingency. You must live with a bottle of Tums next to you.
So it is a real challenge, worrying about the finances of the organization and also worrying about the individuals with disabilities and the families. And are they going to have the financial supports and services that they need to get everything that, all the assistance that they need? It is a big worry. I think that over the years, we've had great support from the administration. I've been here for 35 years. I think that for all of that time, whenever we've come forward and said that we had a need or we had a challenge, the administration has stepped up. An awful lot of the supports and services that fund the programs here at the ARC of New Jersey, the advocacy, the resources, the information and referral, a lot of those services are funded by private donations, corporations, and foundations. So obviously our grant writing is continuing, and our requests for donations are always there.
How do you plan to engage government even more to push change now that you have this position? Is there, I would imagine it's about forming alliances with elected officials and really getting on their cases to push forward in the grand new concept that is Washington these days.
So we are part of a federation of chapters. We have a national office in Washington, D.C., and we also have 20 local county chapters that provide direct services all across the state of New Jersey. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is the fact that we develop great relationships. Disability is a nonpartisan issue. It doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter where you live or what your background is. 1 in 10 families have a family member with an intellectual developmental disability. So it can affect everybody. So we talk to people at that grassroots one-to-one level. These are families, these are the people that we serve. This is the supports and services that we need to provide to them. And we make sure that it's an individual, it's a family issue. We're talking, sometimes parent to parent or individual to individual. And I think that people really respond to that.
And so, of course, you mentioned also community participation and donations, and that's core to the ARC's mission. What new programs are you considering to help advance that, to get more people out there to realize this is the backbone, of developmental disability coverage, if you will, for people in the state of New Jersey? And how do you advance the mission even further in the communities around the state?
So as I mentioned, we have our local county chapters who are right there in the communities. And what we do at the state level is we provide supports and services to them so that they can do their job better. One of the big things that we need to do more of is to be on programs like this, where we're reaching out to the community. One, someone might have a family member with a developmental disability needs help. They need to know where to find us. The other is that maybe somebody might be interested in getting involved with the ARC, becoming a volunteer, giving their expertise to us on a board. Maybe they want to provide some funding because they realize that our mission is one that speaks to their heart. I think, too, that all of our local county chapters and the ARC in New Jersey, we do a great deal of fundraising and special events in the community, which are not only fun for people to come out and have a great time at, but they might learn more about the organization. And we also employ tens of thousands of people across the state to work in all of our programs. Maybe somebody comes out to that program and they realize that this is the calling that they have.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And if somebody finds themselves tomorrow to be a family member of somebody who has developmental disability, physical disability, intellectual disability, what's the first step? What should they do first? Because it must be very daunting, very challenging for a parent or even a family member. You could have somebody come back from a military experience with a suddenly now an intellectual disability, right? And so I'm sure you deal with people of all ages, from young to old. So what's the first step that somebody should take if that's what they suddenly encounter?
Well, that's where people call us, because as soon as they connect with us and the great team of advocates that I have here at the ARC in New Jersey, we can help them figure out what their next step is. What are their challenges? What kinds of support do they need? Where is that support going to come from? And if they need to access a service through some sort of state organization or state administration, we can help them step by step to access and navigate those services until they get the help that they need.
All right. Celine R. Fortin, the new executive director of the ARC of New Jersey. Congratulations once again. Before we let go, give everybody your website. I'm sorry, I forgot to ask for that.
That's okay. So our website is arcnj.org. And as I said, I've got a great team of information referral specialists who are here to help you. Call us. We'll find an answer for you.
There you go. Now we say congratulations once again. Celine R. Fortin, the new, is it Fortin or Fort? How do you properly pronounce it? So I have it from this point on.
Fortin.
Fortin. All right. So, which by the way, sounds like it has the Latin root of strength. So it's a perfect person to be in charge. Fortis in Latin. Celine R. Fortin, the new executive director of the ARC of New Jersey. Thank you for coming on this morning. Have a wonderful day. All the best with the ARC.
Thank you so much, Ken.
You bet. It is 8:14 right now, and we have 54 degrees. When we come back, we'll speak with a doctor who is an expert in liver health You will not believe how much stress is making you sick, among other things. Your liver is essential. We'll talk about that. Clouds this morning, then becoming partly cloudy later. A little breeze, highs in the mid-60s. Get ready for cool down tonight, though, with lows throughout the state into the 30s. And we'll take your calls at 888-658-0234. You're watching on New Jersey Mornings. We'll be right back.
Our Stable Life, New Jersey's first equine wellness center. Are you or a loved one suffering from PTSDs, trauma, or life challenges? Consider non-riding equine therapy, where the soul is touched by the presence of a horse with a certified counselor. Our Stable Life is a non-profit at Bergen Equestrian Center in Leonia, New Jersey. We partner with individuals, groups, and agencies to help people recover from addiction, trauma, phobias, and more. Explore equine therapy for healing. BergenEquestrianCenter.com.
Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato at 8:15, taking calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. Clouds this morning, becoming partly cloudy later with a little breeze, highs in the mid-60s. Get ready for cool down tonight. Lows throughout the state into the 30s. Mike has a day off. Here's a check of your local forecast. And in terms of local temperatures, 54 degrees right now in northern New Jersey, 56 in Trenton, and 53 down in Cape May on the Jersey Shore. In terms of traffic, we have an issue now in the Garden State Parkway to tell you about. This is a crash in the express lanes northbound south of exit. Let's see, this is 144 Cam. I'm sorry. Let me look here. We have a crash on the Garden State southbound. It's at 143B, which is less than a mile from where these folks are going through. That's an unusual looking shot, but nonetheless, through the fence of an overpass. But it gives you an idea of the amount of traffic there. So that's in Maplewood, Irvington. All lanes are open. Vehicles, though, with the crash are moved to the right shoulder, causing some rubbernecking. We have a crash on the Garden State Express lanes northbound south of 109. That's Route 520 in Middletown Township. The right lane is blocked. And a crash on the Garden State local lanes northbound south of 109, Route 520 Middletown. The left lane blocked. We also have a downed pole on Route 1 northbound north of Woodbridge Avenue, Edison. The right lane is closed, and a crash on 1 and 9 Donnelly Avenue southbound from Secaucus Road in North Bergen to County Avenue, Jersey City. All lanes are open, but there's a lot of heavy traffic through there. Your Hudson River approaches. Lincoln and Holland both reporting 25 to 30 minutes, and the GWB upper and lower levels now. We're back to our traditional shot. The upper level is on the right. You can see it's a little slower than the lower level on the left with 35-minute crossover time. The upper level and the lower level on the left is only reporting 30 minutes. 8:19 now, and Dr. Von Watts is a clinical and expert of gut health studies and functional medicine who helps people have lasting healing. He is the author of Foundational Wellness, the simple system that ends doctor dependency forever. And October is Liver Health Awareness Month. Dr. Watts is here now to share why the liver is the body's silent CEO. Welcome and good morning to you, Dr. Watts.
Thanks. Good morning.
So tell everybody what you mean when you say the liver is the silent CEO of the body.
Well, yeah, the liver controls so many different parts of the body, like from detoxification to energy regulation to nutrient metabolism storage, hormone regulation. I mean, there's a number of different processes. I believe it's over 500 processes in the body or essential functions that the liver controls.
And the amazing thing is it regenerates, right? I remember years ago, somebody approached me asking for a lobe because they needed a liver transplant. It turns out we weren't a good match. But talk about that you could you could be a living donor, right? And donate a lobe and it grows into a liver.
Yeah, actually, the liver can regenerate even after losing like almost 70% of its mass. So you have three lobes, and you can actually, they can take a liver from, say, a transplant person and put that into three different people. So yeah, it's a very resilient organ.
Amazing. So we say that we have two lungs, we have two kidneys, we only have one liver, but in essence have three livers in that case because of how many people it could help in a donation state. What are some of the early warning signs of liver dysfunction?
Yeah, there's a number of them. It could be anything from fatigue to bruising easily to pain in the upper right quadrant of your kind of just below your right chest. So there's a number of different things there that you'll start to notice for liver disease.
And boy, having had gallbladder issues in 1998 before I had that poor little sucker taken out, it was pretty big. You know what happens when your liver is unhappy. You sure feel it. Speaking as a person with experience. So talk about how processed foods and medications and the environmental toxins that we experience every day, how that all strains the liver.
Yeah, so the liver is basically everything filters to the liver, whether it's medication, food. And so everything has to filter through there. And unfortunately, with especially ultra processed foods, we don't just have foods in there. We have tons of sugar. We have chemicals that are sprayed on them. All that stuff has to filter through the liver. So the liver, when it's doing its job, it oftentimes, I mean, when we're inundating it, it can only keep up so long before it starts to have problems. Just like anything else, just like your car, right? Your engine can only take so much before it starts to break down.
And so basically the liver's a giant filter, right? Or that's one of its many jobs. So there are teeny little holes that take the molecules and separate them out, which is just amazing. We just evolved that way. Depending on your religious beliefs, I happen to have a belief that somebody with divine inspiration created that. But just still an amazing organ. So what happens to all those toxins? Do they just get passed out in our urine and our fecal matter, or does that, eventually some of it stay behind and harm the liver?
Well, so that's one of the main jobs of the liver is to detox. And what happened with the liver, what it normally does is it will take toxins and it will put it in bile, which then the bile usually gets stored in the gallbladder. So it'll slowly drip in when it needs to. And that bile will carry toxins out through the feces. Now we don't have a gallbladder actually. That can make things difficult as well for digestion. But as far as actual detoxification, yeah, that's the main way it does it. It'll go right through the bile, which will then continue on through the digestive tract and out through the fecal matter.
Yeah, it just you learn being that person with no gallbladder. You just learn don't eat massive amounts of high-fat foods all at once unless you intend on staying in for the evening. To say the least, as I don't have to get into any more detail than that, but you learn to eat more healthfully and you eat smaller amounts of fats. How can we interpret what our bodies are telling us?
Well, the number one thing to do, what I like to always tell people is test, don't guess. You can go get a liver panel. They're very inexpensive. Even if you're paying cash for it, I mean, you're looking at, got to be under $30, $40. So it's a very inexpensive lab to do. I highly recommend getting labs run once a year just to see where things are at, stay ahead of the game. Don't wait until you start feeling symptoms. Usually when you start feeling symptoms, you're somewhere around 40% all the way already into the disease process. So I'm a big fan of going in, getting an annual blood test and just see where your body's at. Because what you'll find is that you often find things that are not functioning properly. You'll find them early, which makes it much easier to take care of and reverse.
So being somebody here who has AFib, I have a lot, Doc. I'll give you a list. I gave up alcohol about 7 or 8 years ago, and I know it's funny because I used to have the 2 or 3 martini lunch with my TV co-anchors all the time, and I thought I was helping myself by I was like, if I had the 3 martinis, I'll just come home and take a bunch of milk thistle, and it'll just be fine. Milk thistle helps, but you don't intentionally cause toxins to come into your liver. As my doctor told me, it's like, here's what the toxins are doing, and here's the milk thistle. So it's like trying to get water out of the Titanic with a bucket. So that's the way he described it. Talk about how now there are ways to help keep your liver healthy, right, in terms of eating correctly, but you don't toxify it, if you will, and then just try to fix it later with little things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, one of the best things you can do, alcohol is one. NSAIDs like Tylenol, Advil, aspirin, not taking that regularly, that can be very damaging to the liver. But the biggest one that most people miss, and it's probably the largest growing set of population, is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is for ultra-processed food, which is just a bunch of sugar in your diet. And so one of the best ways to support the liver is eat real food. And I always say it's real simple. It grows on the ground, in the ground, swims or flies, you're good to go. If it comes out of a bottle, package, or can, try to avoid it. Because it's a real issue. And right now, currently in the United States, somewhere around 40% of the population is dealing with some sort of liver disease. And I bet a big portion of that is from diet.
That's just amazing. And because diet is medicine, right? Truthfully, that's the majority of what we ingest, and that's how we harm ourselves or help ourselves. It just makes so much sense. And I remember I was 360 pounds at one point, and I'm down to half of that. I'm 180 pounds now and have been for years. But in spite of that, I know my doctor told me you could still have fatty liver disease because of the foods you're talking about, eating processed foods or having alcohol and things like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Your weight doesn't necessarily going to dictate what your liver is. That's more your diet and your lifestyle. You did mention before how there are certain supplements you can take, things that have, like what you said, milk thistle in it. If you don't have a gallbladder, there's a really good ingredient you can find out there called TUDCA, TUDC. It's another one. NAC is another really good liver support. But the best support you can give your liver is a healthy diet. And the biggest thing is eat real food. That is the number one thing you can do to help your liver.
That is, and it's just easy, and it's probably the least expensive way to help it too. If you open up my fridge, you will find I'm one of those goofy guys. I have a big thing of organic kale that I put into my diet every single day. I have some kale. That's just part of like just to have fiber and it keeps me full, and then I eat whatever. It's just natural foods. It's as simple as that. You're right. There are very few things in a package or an envelope of any kind in the house, but that's how you stay healthy. When you hear complaints like fatigue and brain fog or hormone issues, how often are those connected to liver issues?
Well, those are three key indicators that you potentially have liver disease. And if you have all three of them, there's probably a good chance there is something going on with your liver. There's other things as well. Metabolism, your thyroid hormone, 60% of it converts in the liver. So if you don't have a healthy liver, you can really struggle with weight, a lot of different things that your thyroid helps to manage, like weight, fatigue, brain fog, your hair thinning, anxiety. There's a whole long laundry list of things just from how the liver helps support the thyroid. So it's a really, I can't stress it enough. It's one of the most important organs to take care of on a regular basis.
Amen. And how should liver health be integrated then into standard healthcare? Because I find that doctors don't really give it the time. Insurance companies get them in and out in 10 minutes. They don't have the time to sit down and have that discussion with their patients.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's our world today. Most things that medical doctors do is going to be based on whatever insurance companies are going to cover, and they don't cover natural things by any means. And really the easiest thing to keep your liver healthy is to do natural things. It's not medication. It's healthy diet. It's taking certain supplementation that can be advantageous, like you listed before, like a product with milk thistle, just doing natural things, and most docs don't do that. You'll find that a lot with functional medicine doctors. That's kind of their specialty, getting to the root cause and really treating root cause naturally. And you can find anywhere from a medical doctor to a doctor of osteopath to a doctor of chiropractic. All of them are you'll find as functional medicine doctors.
Love it. What is a website for more information or to find your book?
Yeah, just foundationalwellness.com. You can go there. We have a free gift, a free guide to give you. And then if you like, the book is there as well.
Awesome. He is the author of Foundational Wellness, the simple system that ends doctor dependency forever. Dr. Ron Watts, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Very valuable information.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you. Thank you, sir. 8:30 right now. The phone lines are open, taking calls at 888-658-0234. Clouds this morning, partly cloudy later, a little breeze, highs mid-60s, then a cool down tide into the 30s. The full Garden State forecast in a moment. You're watching On New Jersey Mornings. We'll be right back. It's our moment of Zen rejoiner. Our director, Pam, loves that moment of Zen to kind of calm us down into this half-hour block. Good morning. It is Wednesday, October 12th, 2025. Our temperature 54 degrees in northern New Jersey, 56 degrees in Trenton. I am Ken Rosato at 8:31, and welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. Clouds this morning, becoming part cloudy later with a little breeze, highs in the mid-60s. Get ready for cool down tonight, though. Lows in the state in the 30s. Mike has the day off. Here's a check of the Garden State forecast right down to your town. Yeah. Okay. All right, we do have a lot of traffic to talk about right now. If you take a look at let's see if we have this, the New Jersey Turnpike Hudson County Extension for mile marker 14B. We are told by extension, by exit 14B. Do we have it? No, that's not the one. It's all right. We thought we had, where Pam and I are trying to find the camera. I have the camera. It's one of those unique shots, Pam, but it is showing just bumper. I'll do it the old school way. Let's show everybody what it looks like the old school way. So this is what we're talking about. So that's what we got to tell you about. That's if you're wondering where we get our traffic from, that's where we get it from. We got cameras all over the state. We also have issues now on the Jersey Turnpike as well in the vicinity of Route 33, interchange 8. Hightstown in East Windsor Township. The exit ramp is closed. That's due to an incident that occurred there about an hour ago. We have a crash on the Garden State local lanes northbound, south of exit 120, Lawrence Harbor and Old Bridge Township. All lanes are open. The crash is up to the right shoulder, but that's causing rubbernecking. And we have delays right now on the Garden State local lanes, northbound south of 109, Route 520 in Middletown. The left lane is blocked. We're going to go to a call, Pam, in just a second. I'm just giving you a heads up before we go to our guests. We also have the GWB approach, upper and lower levels. If we could show that, not so bad on the upper on the right. The lower level is a mess, though, on the left. It's about 40 minutes in on the lower, only 30 on the upper. All right, we're going to take our phone call. As we always do here, we take our phone calls live. So let's go to... let's see, who do we have here? Jay Friedman. Hello, good morning to you, sir.
Jeff from
How are you?
I've called.
Jeff.
Good, Ken. How are you? So,
good.
I've been taking a look at the show. I saw the last sequence on, liver, and you mentioned you lost all that weight, which is over 100 pounds, I guess. So I'm calling to talk about exercise, which, is healthcare related, maybe to your last segment. And exercise, I'd have to imagine, is an important part of your life with the whole, being thin now thing.
Yeah, essential. I tell you what, where I live here, I have a little workout area that's part of the complex, and I just get on a treadmill 3 times a week for 30 minutes, and I like to hike, and I do some resistance bends. That's all I do, but you have to do it, especially as you get older. You have to do it, or else you will get muscle wasting, and it's so essential. It's not just about what you eat, although that's probably 80% of it, but you're right. What do you do for your exercise regime?
Well, gee, that's a question I hate to answer, but long story short, I used to go to the gym all the time, and for health reasons. And gee, I kind of went on strike from the gym over 10 years ago, and I run a nonprofit, and so that requires loading and unloading vans a lot, and that's what I do. And I never was a person that had to do that much manual labor, in my life. But so that's the exercise I get, which we know, and other healthcare professionals are listening. There's 2 kind of major exercise categories, and I'm no expert, but there's aerobic and there's anaerobic. So that anaerobic, you're stopping and starting, whereas of course what you're talking about, and when I formally did that, that's aerobic, and supposedly you want to get some of both, right?
100%. Yeah, one is good for your cardiovascular, and one is very good for your muscle tone, which you have to keep up. And you burn more calories when you have good muscle tone, so it's essential. I'm glad you called in, Jeff. It's always a pleasure to take your call, and please call back anytime. We love that you tune into the show, and we love that you call in. Enjoy your Wednesday. All right, my friend. Thank you. You bet, please. He's awesome. We love Jeff from Livingston when he calls in. But we always like to, for those who don't realize, we always, if we get a phone call and it's related to a story, we always cut in and we put that phone call on, and you are always welcome to call 888-658-0234. 8:38 is our time right now, and Liz Rich and Valeria Allo are co-directors of the Feliciano Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Montclair State University, and they are here to discuss the New Jersey Small Business Summit. It's happening October 22nd at University Hall. The summit is set to be a game changer for entrepreneurs all across the state. It features hands-on workshops, expert panels, even a keynote from celebrity fitness trainer Lloyd Pearson. We just talked about working out. Liz and Valeria will share insights into how this event aims at empowering small business owners and what attendees can expect. Liz and Valeria, it's so good to have you on. Good morning.
Thank you, Ken. Good morning, Ken. Great to see you.
Good morning. And let's start with Liz. Tell us the inspiration behind the New Jersey Small Business Summit and what the Feliciano Center hopes to achieve with the event.
Yeah, so we have a long-standing commitment to supporting small business owners and entrepreneurs both on campus and in our community. And we've been running large events around women entrepreneurship for many years. And a couple of years ago, we thought, why don't we make something that's for everyone? That's a large celebration of our small business owners and entrepreneurs here in New Jersey. So that was really the impetus. So this is year two of the New Jersey Small Business Summit. And it's bringing together, last year we had over 300 guests join us. These are small business owners, entrepreneurs, students, and community members and key stakeholders within the state who really impact decisions that are, affecting small business owners in our state. And so just getting together to share resources, to learn something new, and to just celebrate one another, because we know entrepreneurship it's not an easy road. And so we need to celebrate our wins. We need to come together as like-minded individuals and share our knowledge and to just advocate for and celebrate one another on this day. So that was really the impetus.
And that's essential. It's so important. There's so many people with ideas, but they never get them off the ground. They have to learn how to go through the process. So that's why this is so essential. Valeria, the summit includes workshops on AI tools and branding. How are these topics chosen, and why are they so crucial for today's small businesses?
So our center is about continued innovation. So we hear and we listen to what people need. We are in connection with our community all the time, and we gather feedback from previous events. And we are also observing the trends of what's going to happen, not in the next decade, in the next 2 to 3 years. So AI is going to be significant, and we want our small businesses to embrace AI with no fear. So that's why we have these hands-on, approachable workshops where they will be in a room with an instructor, hands-on with their phones or computers, practicing on some of these AI tools, breaking through barriers or fears. And then, of course, small businesses always want to sell more. So how do you use technology? How do you refine your marketing? How do you better targeting? How do you connect through the clutter and the noise that we have online today in our phones? Is a constant bombarding of information. How can a small business break through? So it's based on listening to them and their needs, and what they have been telling us, and also what we see that is coming that they may not be very aware of.
And a lot of people may not realize that the fastest growing segment of small business owners are A, women in general, and B, Latinas, right? Latin women are the largest small business growth. It's explosive. And it's essential. I'm so glad I see two women in front of me doing this. So you have something called Resilience Through Change. That's a panel that you have. So what can the attendees expect to learn from the discussion?
So what's interesting about that panel is the variety of women and their expertise that we bring together. So there is a common element, and all of them went through significant change and are already preparing for the big change coming forward in the society, in funding, in business prospects, in supply chains. We know change is coming, right? So how do we prepare for that? And they have a history of helping other entrepreneurs adjust to change. So they are going to be tackling the topic of how do we become resilient to change and flexible and adaptable. And each of them tackles it from a different angle. One is an expert in AI, another one is an expert in societal changes and economy, another one is an expert in funding. So they will all add value in terms of how to prepare from the different perspectives and experiences.
Awesome. And talking about that, so we're talking basically also about networking, right? So Liz, networking is so important. And that's what's great about an event like this, because if you're a woman trying to start a small business, say I make, I make computer printing stuff. I might meet a person who's starting out a computer ink business, or a person who's a printer or whatever. And so this is perfect. You get together with all these entrepreneurs. Why is it so essential to have a place where they can all meet and exchange ideas?
Right. And so that's really what we are trying to be, a connector of all these different people who are doing this really amazing, sometimes difficult work, right? Especially for entrepreneurs, whether you are a woman or not, right? Starting out is all about the connections that you're going to make. You have to meet the people in the room who are making decisions, who can give you that advice, who have been down this road before, who have had trouble with finding funding, who have had issues with supply chain, so that they can impart that wisdom on you or to you, so that you can make decisions, important, informed decisions for yourself. So it's all about making those connections and meeting the right people within your industry. And it's also for our students, I think it's really important to see it to be it, right? So they see these folks who are out there doing the work and they think to themselves, I can do this. This is doable. So it's really important for them to see their mentors and their future selves in the audience.
So important. Liz Rich and Valeria Allo, co-directors of the Feliciano Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation in Montclair State. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and best of luck with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. 54 degrees now, 8:43. You're watching On New Jersey Morning. When we come back, the strain right now that we are having, just many households are feeling the strain as voters are heading to polls right now. Well, we're going to speak with the director of the New Jersey Division of Rate Counsel about it. And you're watching On New Jersey Mornings. We're back in 30.
We vote to protect the Social Security we worked hard for. We vote because family caregivers deserve support. We vote to have a say in our future. For all the reasons why, AARP has information about when, where, and how to vote. Find the information you need to make your voice heard.
Countdown to Election Day, presented by AARP New Jersey. Visit aarp.org/NJ Votes.
Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, 8:46 now, taking calls at 888-658-0234. Clouds this morning, becoming partly cloudy later with a little breeze. Highs mid-60s. That cool down tonight. Lows in New Jersey into the 30s. Mike has the day off. Here's a check of the Garden State forecast. And it is 54 degrees right now. Again, we're going to get a cool down tonight, as you saw in the forecast. It is now 8:48. And in terms of traffic, we have a disabled vehicle on the Pulaski Skyway southbound, South Kearney is where it's located. One right lane of the two lanes closed. On the Hudson River crossings now, Lincoln and Helen both reporting 25 to 30 minutes into the city. The GWB upper and lower level approaches we can take a look at now, and you will see the both are light there. And that's why we're being told it's now only about 25 to 30 minutes in. So that's your best way into Manhattan. 8:49 is our time, and as utility costs climb across New Jersey, many households are feeling the strain, just as voters are heading to polls. With that in mind, we are pleased to welcome Brian Lippman, Director of the New Jersey Division of Rate Counsel, who represents consumers in utility matters. He joins us today to break down where rate increase proposals stand, what steps the state is taking to protect ratepayers, and what a new governor should do early in office to ensure affordability and fairness. Brian, welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Can you start by giving us the current status of utility rate increase proposals in the state of New Jersey?
Sure. So what you really have is you have two sets of rate increase proposals. First is at the federal level, which is constantly in motion. We're going to have yet another auction in December for the capacity, and that was what drove the big rate increase we saw in June. So we're going to see what that does. More likely than not, it's going to stay around the same price. So that will result in a slight increase in prices for the cost of electricity. Now, in New Jersey, there are multiple things happening at the same time. There are 3 or 4 utilities currently that are in for rate cases, a base rate case where a utility will say, I've invested a lot of money and now I need to start recovering that from ratepayers. And there's going to be other types of clause cases, infrastructure building, those type of cases. And anytime the utility spends money, eventually they're going to come to the ratepayers and say, I spent this money, now I need to recover it from the ratepayers.
Is there one main factor, though, that drives the requests that really hits consumers' wallets hardest?
I would say recently it's been the cost of electricity. The cost of the actual electricity that people are using has been going up significantly in the last year to 2 years, driven mostly, quite frankly, by data centers. I saw the panel before talking about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence uses a lot more electricity, so everyone's got us at least one, if not multiple cell phones, and we're all doing searches using artificial intelligence. So a search that at one time on Google or whatever you use might have taken X amount, it's now 10x of the same amount of electricity. So you're using a lot more power. These data centers are very power hungry. They're using a lot of electricity. Before the boom in data centers, we were actually looking at a decline in the amount of electricity we're using as a region, and now we're looking at massive increases, and that's driving up the price of electricity.
And that's why you have, I guess, some of the data center companies talking about building their own mini nuclear power plants, right, to generate enough electricity to power this. It's fascinating because people think you just show up in a town and you just plug in, but the town's power may not be able to support an AI center in that town. So that's why they're coming up with their own resources in that case. So what actions has the state or rate council already taken to protect households from unfair hikes?
So we are involved, rate council is involved in every single case where a utility is seeking to increase your rates or change your terms of service. And we do a lot of pushing back. We research what it is they're asking for. Is it necessary? Was it needed? And also we look at the return, the amount of return the utility earns, because the utility doesn't only want to get back what it invested, it wants to earn a return on that amount. And so we push back on that as well. We're very involved both at the state and the federal level to make sure that what the utility is asking for is what they actually need, and that we're looking at, quite frankly, everything. We've got accountants, we've got economists, and we're really digging into these rate increases. At the same time, the state is doing everything it can. One of the big things that the state is doing now is getting much more involved at the federal level, where you're seeing these large increases. So that was somewhere where, quite frankly, rate council was by itself fighting these rate increases when they weren't as massive. Now that they're massive, you see more resources being poured into that review of those type of increases.
So talk about that a little bit more, if you will, the Division of Rate Counsel and the intervention. So they show up at regulatory hearings and negotiations, or is it that you push legislators to have new legislation? How does it work?
Yes to all of the above. Anytime there's a case, the Board of Public Utilities is our regulator. They regulate all the utilities in the state. Anytime a utility files a case at the Board of Public Utilities, Rate Counsel is a statutory intervener. That means we're at the table during negotiations. If it's litigated, we're involved in the litigation. We're filing briefs, we're filing expert reports. Anytime the Board of Public Utilities issues a straw proposal of some new program that the state wants to put out there, we file comments on behalf of the ratepayers explaining the impact that might have on ratepayers. When the legislature is considering any type of legislation that could have an impact on ratepayers, we try to be there, we try to testify, and we try to make sure the legislators understand the impact this could have on ratepayers. A lot of times, a bill that seems like it's very beneficial, there's not an understanding of how that plays out in rates and what it's going to do to the actual bills that people will see when they pay their bills. So we try to make sure the legislators understand that before they pass any legislation.
So now, with the lame duck session ahead, what utility-related legislation are you urging the legislature to prioritize?
One of the ones that we're very pushing on is that electric utility must be part of what's called a regional transmission organization. And what that has the potential to do is lower the amount of return that the utility would earn for their wholesale transmission, which would in turn lower rates. And it could have a significant impact, as much as 0.5 percentage point on their return.
After the election, of course, we had both candidates talking about wanting to do things about the electric costs. So what should the new governor, whoever he or she is, tackle first in terms of utility regulation and consumer protection?
I think the first thing they should do is stay involved. The governors across the region have started to work together, bipartisan, to work on rates at the federal level. I think it's important that the governor remain active in that. Governor Murphy has been active in that group, and whoever the next governor should remain active in that group. I think the other thing they need to do is take a hard look at some of the regulations that we have at the BPU and some of the programs that the BPU is implementing, and see whether we need to revamp or maybe rethink how we're doing things. There's a lot of infrastructure investment that's being done that made sense to people when the price of electricity, the price of gas was low. Now that the prices have gone up, I think we need to take another look at what we're investing in, the speed and pace that we're investing in, whether all that investment is necessary right away, right now.
So with all of that said, how do you strike that balance between pushing clean energy goals and keeping rates affordable and reliable? Because I think everybody has a goal, right? They want to have green, clean energy, but it does cost a lot. And when you shut down fossil fuel plants before the green energy plants are up, that's something that contributes to the hike in electricity supply and demand, right?
Right. I mean, right now we're in a position where we need everything. Any type of power that's available, we need to, if it's currently there, we need to keep it online. If it's being built, we need to assist it being built. What we can do, though, is we pay a lot more for our renewable energy than other states do. We pay more for solar than other states do. We pay more for energy efficiency than other states do. I think we pay more than for electric vehicles than other states do. We can take a hard look at what we're doing and do it better. And I think, that will make a big difference on the ratepayer impact. Is it going to cost? Of course, everything costs. Whatever we do. If you build a gas-fired plant, a nuclear power plant, or a solar panel, they're going to want to recover that from ratepayers. That's going to cost money. But we need to make sure that we're doing it the right way and that we're doing it cost-beneficial way. And we've not been good about that in the recent past.
All right. Brian Lippman, Director of the New Jersey Division of Rate Counsel, thank you so much for coming on this morning. And before you get off the screen, I want to remind people, for more information on when, where, and how to vote, please visit aarp.org/NJ votes. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to talk to you.
You bet. And that is on New Jersey Mornings for Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you again tomorrow morning starting at 7 a.m.